All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully everyone can hear me. If you have any issues, please submit it through the chat and we will hopefully address that immediately. But welcome everyone to our Importance of Advocacy for Women in Construction panel discussion hosted by Superior Women in Construction. We like to call our group SWIC, so you'll probably hear us call it that throughout as we're talking. So hopefully you can get a little familiar with that. But we're so excited to be hosting this event and discuss some of our current challenges that women face in the industry. Over the next hour, we hope to gain some insights that can be applied to your daily jobs to promote how fostering a positive, inclusive company culture can benefit everyone on the job and the future of the industry. So thank you all. For anyone that's decided to join us online, we know that your time is very valuable and you have a lot going on throughout your day. So we're really excited that you're joining us. And throughout the session, we encourage you all to submit any questions you may have. Go ahead and submit those through the chat, and then time permitting, we will address some of those questions on the fly. If there is any questions that we don't get to, we'll be sure to somehow send a follow-up either through Savannah and NAWIC, or we will directly communicate with you, but we'll be sure that we answer your questions if we run out of time. So we hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy. First of all, I'm going to do some introductions. My name is Callie Miller. I am the Director of HR at Superior, and I will be kind of emceeing our session today. So SWIC is very near and dear to us, and there's been a lot of thought and teamwork to get us here. I'm honored and privileged to sit next to some of my esteemed colleagues that you see on the screen. These women absolutely exemplify what it means to be a woman in construction. They all have unique journeys, all unique experiences, and they're all valued and appreciated. And I hope the words and wisdom that they share with us today may bring some valuable perspectives on the way that we work and insights of how we can get better as an overall industry. So today with us, we have Liz Howard, Senior Project Manager. Liz, if you can wave or say hello real quick. All right. So Liz Howard has been working in field project management on marine and land-based construction projects for almost 25 years, working with Superior Construction for the last 3 years. Her mentor and professor at Tulane University steered her into the industry due to her descriptive language and desire for real-world instances. Liz was the first female engineer at her first company, opening opportunities for others in the future. She received her PE license in 2018, several years into her career after being challenged by her field engineers to study together. She employs direct and honest communication to accomplish tasks and collaborate for successful projects. Liz is absolutely a team player and high expectations, but she absolutely gives as much as she demands. In some of her free time, Liz enjoys golfing, hiking, boating, and going to the beach. All right, we also have Amy Henningfield. She is our Midwest Contracts and Compliance Manager. Amy is a seasoned leader in the construction industry, currently serving as the Midwest Contracts and Compliance Manager for Superior Construction. With over 30 years of industry experience, Amy specializes in contract negotiation, compliance oversight, regulatory administration, ensuring the seamless execution of high-impact projects. A Northwest Indiana native, Amy's roots in the region run deep. She and her husband take immense pride into their 2 accomplished daughters. Her dedication to continuous growth is evident in her educational journey, earning a bachelor's degree in business administration in 2022 and completing her MBA in 2024, both from Purdue University Global. Recognized as an overall influential Women of the Year by Northwest Indiana Influential Women Association, Amy is not just a manager, but she's a trailblazer working to redefine opportunities for women in construction. Additionally, we have Jessica Paskey, Organizational Development Manager at Superior Construction, where she works closely with teams across the company to assess strengths and talents, fostering an environment of growth and collaboration. As a founding member of Superior's Women in Construction initiative, Jessica has played a key role in promoting inclusivity and encouraging professional development within the industry. Known for her ability to bring a bit of magic to her work, She helps individuals unlock their potential, creating an atmosphere where both people and projects can thrive. Jessica holds a bachelor's degree in social science and is currently pursuing a master's in human resource development, demonstrating her commitment to continuous learning and professional growth. She also dedicates her time as a board member for the Association for Talent Development's Northeast Florida chapter, where she helps advance the careers of professionals in the community. Outside of work, Jessica is a proud mother of two and enjoys caring for her many animals and houseplants, bringing that same passion and attention to detail in her personal life as she does to her career. We have Jenny Furman, Assistant Project Manager, joining us. Jenny Furman is an Assistant Project Manager at Superior Construction, where she has worked for the last 6 years. She holds a degree in civil engineering from the University of Florida and has been passionate about building since childhood, whether it was the influence of growing up near the Acropolis in Athens or watching Bob the Builder. She has always been drawn to construction. Jenny loves the construction industry because it brings together problem solving, teamwork, and tangible results. She thrives in an environment where challenges are met in real time and solutions take shape in physical, impactful ways. Passionate about mentorship, she is dedicated to showing young women that they are capable of achieving whatever they want to set their minds to. In her personal time, she enjoys big Friday night meals with friends and family and also loves to read, traveling, and learning languages. She currently speaks 4 languages and learning her 5th. Very impressive. And last but not least, we have Charisse Rivas. She's our corporate risk manager at Superior Construction. She has a Juris Master in Legal Risk Management, a Master's of Science in Leadership and Negotiation, and a Bachelor's in Counseling Psychology. Her pathway through education has equipped her with a unique approach to climbing the ladders of success, and she seeks to share the lessons learned with other women as they forge their own path. She is an active leader and advocate for initiatives to bridge the gender gap in leadership roles, creating an environment where women can thrive and excel. In her personal time, Charisse is a boy mom, #boy mom, a foodie who loves exploring new cuisines and an avid beachgoer, embodying the importance of embracing life's pleasures while inspiring others to be the change they wish to see in the world. So that's a little bit about our panel today. We did want to share a little bit with you all, a little bit about our SWIC program. So Superior Women in Construction, we launched in the fall of 2022. So we are still a little bit in our infancy. We're definitely within the first 5 years, but it's a dynamic advocacy group dedicated to empowering women and driving innovation across the company and construction industry as a whole. SWIC champions a diverse leadership pipeline, aligning with Superior's commitment to empower all employees and establish us as a leader in our industry. At its core, SWIC is more than just a talent program. It's a powerful advocate for visibility, empowerment, and the recruitment and retention of women. Our comprehensive leadership development program, known as SWIC LEAD, or Leaders Evolving and Developing, LEAD, that's how we got LEAD, supports women at a critical stage of their careers, ensuring that they have the tools and opportunities to thrive. By focusing on these key areas, SWIC aims to create a supportive and inclusive environment where women can excel and make significant contributions to Superior's ongoing success and innovation. All right, so without further ado, we're going to jump right into some questions. Okay, so number 1, why is advocacy for women in construction so important today? How can women advocate for themselves in the workplace, whether it's for promotions, leadership roles, or fair treatment? Charisse, what are your thoughts? I'm going to kick it off to you to start us off.
Sure. So, advocacy for women is so important today because we're here. And incorporating women into the industry provides an opportunity for organizations to challenge our blind spots through thinking about new perspectives. As women, we have different life experiences, and considering those in our decision making makes for more informed decisions on how to grow an aging and evolving workforce. As well, the construction industry has an ever changing landscape, no pun intended, which requires adaptability and having diverse teams, and allows for agility and the capability to respond to the changing needs of our industry with better accuracy. As well, as reflected in the work that we're doing in SWIC, we're able to represent and better serve the communities that we work in, which ultimately can lead to stronger connections with our clients and our stakeholders. There are also unique challenges that women face in the workplace that are rooted in social and industry norms as well. So challenging and calling for the industry to elevate our perspectives and the experiences we face surrounding bias and even harassment, allows for a more welcoming industry where women not only want to work, but can thrive, which in turn leads to providing solutions to a shrinking labor force, and in turn also positively impacts productivity and sustainability of your organization and the industry overall. So advocating for women is more than just an initiative, it's also a strategic march toward a more dynamic and innovative and successful industry. And then the second part of the question was, how can women advocate for themselves in the workplace? You mentioned promotions, leadership roles, fair treatment. So women can advocate for ourselves by first speaking up. Raising your hand and saying, I want to do that is an example. It's likely not lost on many of us that as women, we do tend to believe that we have to check 100% of the boxes in order to put ourselves out there for promotions or leadership roles. Or as many of our fellow SWIC graduates, for example, stated early on in the program, that we hope that our work alone will speak for itself or that we'll get called on. And what we found is it doesn't always happen this way, and that in fact, it actually rarely happens this way. It's important to be visible and make your goals known and take courageous steps. And sometimes that means doing it scared. It's oftentimes the way to go. And second, remembering that it's a marathon and not a sprint. So sometimes that first answer or the first 10 answers might be no. So asking for feedback and not letting those moments define you, but instead allowing those moments to refine your strategy is how you make it across that finish line. I'll also say seek out mentors and sponsors. That's something that was, integral to our program. These are people in your industry or your workplace who are going to share their experience and expertise with you, and they're willing to put you out in front of their network or mention your name in rooms where you're not. And one big lesson that came out is being an ally to other people as well, because what goes around comes around. So speaking up for other employees who are qualified, but maybe don't have the same visibility that you may have, and bringing them along to the table as well. When we use our voices to elevate others, we're all elevated. So I was able to attend a women's leadership conference in 2019. It was hosted by Bay Path University, where Mel Robbins was the keynote speaker. And she drove this point home by saying there's always enough success to go around. And I believe that having a firm belief that you have the ability to influence the results that you want, and then matching your steps and your energy to that is truly the catalyst for advocating for your interests and the interest of other women.
Absolutely. I think so much of what you said too, Charisse, is it hits home for probably a lot of people. We talk about this quite a bit throughout our lead program, but it's the visibility. We really try to push and advocate our groups to, you got to make yourself visible, right? And it's hard because I think, go throughout our day and we think, well, if I do a good job, someone's going to see it. Someone's going to notice it. And that's not always the case. And so I think it is really important that you do speak out. You do kind of pat yourself on the back. You take the small moments to kind of insert what you've done or what you've recently accomplished in everyday conversation, and coupled that with advocating and calling out and lifting other women up, I think is a huge piece too.
Yeah. And remembering that imposter syndrome is not unique to you and it's not unique to women. 70% of people have that imposter syndrome. So again, it's just that doing it scared. Sometimes you're not going to feel 100% confident, but getting out there and doing it anyway, you'll realize you have the skills, you have the knowledge, just get out there and do it.
100%. Yeah. Amy, so you've been a staple of not only advocating for women within Superior, but recently receiving the overall Influential Woman of the Year by Northwest Indiana Influential Women Association. That's a mouthful, but I got it. What else would you add to this?
I just want to say that I agree with Charisse. Building a strong network, I think seeking out leadership to support you and to advocate for you, whether you are or not in the room. We're underrepresented in leadership. And I think that couples with some pay disparities. And I think the workplace culture, we need to make sure that that's an inclusive environment for females. It doesn't happen on its own, right? We have to work together. We have to find other women and allies to actively push for those opportunities for us, challenge the biases, and just, make room, make space for the next female that's coming up behind you, or the female that's working with you that maybe isn't confident enough to create her own visibility. I think that mentors and allies, whether it be other females and men, we have to build our own network. And you know, we can't wait for someone else to recognize our potential either. As much as we want those people to be advocates for us, we have to own it as well. And that way, maybe we can all together shift the industry and make it more equitable. I think that's important. The mentorship and building a strong network is something that I strive to do for myself and for others as I see them not speaking up for themselves.
Absolutely. Just leaving the space a little bit better than what we came on. So
Yes.
I think that's great. Jess, so as one of our founders, I'm calling you, of Superior Women in Construction, how would you say women can advocate for themselves and have visibility?
You know, you guys touched on this a little bit already, but my favorite thing to highlight when talking about this is that advocating for yourself is hard. It's hard for everybody, like especially people that are more on the reserved side. It's really hard to speak up. So I really like to leverage advocating for each other. And because it's so much easier to advocate for your friend, to be like, hey, Jenny would be really great for that opportunity. Those things are what we can do to help each other to be good advocates, because it's really difficult to advocate for yourself.
Absolutely. I know I see a little bit of movement in the chat, so I love that. Some people just saying, I need to lean into some of those relationships, be the change you wish to see in the world. And, visibility, letting others know, hey, I'd like to try that. I'd like to be a part of that committee. That's absolutely true. So I love the comments. That's great. Keep it coming, you guys. All right, so we are going to move on to our next question. What are some tangible ways companies can advocate for women in construction and ensure they have equal opportunities? So with that, I think this has been an area that, many of us struggle with. We just talked a little bit about the visibility and how you can advocate for others. We have a lot of great ideas, but how do we implement them? How do we put those into action? How can we get the appropriate buy-in by maybe some of the leadership that isn't used to seeing females in leadership? What are some of those tangible ways that some of the people joining the webinar today, how can they get this started and do some of the same things that we're doing at Superior? So Jess, I'm kicking it right back to you. In your words, how can you influence the company leadership into taking real action and support beyond just statements and policies and saying, yeah, we totally support women? How do you make that a tangible effort?
Sure. So I think the first step is really awareness. Back in 2022, before our program got started, we got a new CFO, and he went out to a project one day and happened to be the project Jenny was working on. And he noticed that we had several project engineers that were females. He came back to the office and he was kind of like chatting with me, and he's like, I had no idea that there were female engineers working here. And I think for him, it was like a wake-up call that he hadn't seen that in his prior roles, in his prior life. And that was because those companies weren't doing enough to recruit women. Construction as a whole is needing people. We're needing talent. And the way that we can get that is by targeting women and people who have not traditionally been in these types of roles. So one of the things that they can do from there for us, it led to us starting the Women in Construction group. But starting out, sponsorship, mentorship, offering those opportunities to the women that you already have is critical, because that's giving them skills they need, but it's also giving them visibility. People tend to promote people that remind them of themselves. So women are at a disadvantage by that. And it's not intentional all the time, but it's just a fact. So getting them exposure does so much for their growth. But the next thing is building relationships with organizations that support women. Like, we have great partnerships with University of North Florida and Purdue, and both of those colleges have women in construction programs. So we're maintaining those relationships to make sure that the young women in those construction programs, they want to come to Superior. They know us, they recognize us, and they know that we will continue to advocate for them. So I think that those are really huge steps that you can take to be a good advocate for women coming into the industry, but also the women that are already here. Another thing that we've done at Superior that was a really small step to take was offering inclusive PPE, offering things that fit women, because a lot of times it's one size fits all, and that stuff is built for men. So making it to where they feel like you're looking out for them too. It's such a simple effort to take, and it goes a really long way.
Yeah, I think some of those things that we've tested out over the last few years have really made a big impact. And it's started to kind of make it circle throughout the whole company and, get back to some of us, which is really rewarding. Liz, what are your thoughts for some other tangible ways that maybe companies can advocate for women in construction? Do you have any additional thoughts to add?
I mean, I think this whole discussion is focusing around visibility and support, right? So, with the support that our companies offer, it can be with education or resources or encouraging the next step or just simply having our back, right? So I think that we've seen a lot with our group and just working with you know the leaders in our companies or the various organizations, that they have our back, that they're willing to let us make a decision and carry on with it. If we want to host an activity or do this webinar, for instance, I mean, they are encouraging every step that we have. So I think that support and just the free reign is really what's helped us.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think all really good things. Really quick, I see one or two things in the chat, and I want to save a lot of like the questions for the end, but I think this is a quick one. Any recommendations of where to source PPE for women, manufacturers, brands? Do you guys remember?
So
Any
I was gonna
off your head?
say to that, we had really great allies in our HSE department here, and I know that Travis Browning is listening right now. So if you could maybe respond in that chat to where we're getting that PPE, that would be awesome.
Shout out, Travis.
I agree. And Jess, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, could we message Travis and have him
Yeah.
just throw it in the chat? I remember he sent me a book, and I feel like the name was like Radians or I don't recall. I'm not certain.
Hopefully Travis is, I know he was joining us, so hopefully he can get that in the chat. If not, we'll find a way to kind of get that out to everyone because I think that's a really good point. Okay, we're going to keep it moving. What role do unions, associations, and industry groups play in advocating for women in construction? So, Amy, I'm glad you just spoke. I'm going to pass this over to you. This is 1000% your wheelhouse, especially you're located in Northwest Indiana. Obviously, many of us are here in Florida, actually, within our own company, but Indiana is primarily union heavy. And can you give us some wonderful insight, of what you think and what role do all of those different pieces play? What are you seeing? What advice would you have?
Sure, I will do my best. So in my opinion, I think unions, industry associations, there's professional groups, they all play a vital role in advocating for women in construction. They provide resources, support, they help with some pathways to help females in their career growth. But I would say that it doesn't just start in the industry. It's not just unions. It starts long before that in our schools and our communities too. In my experience from unions, they create apprenticeship programs, and they have other programs that they prepare women for the career in the construction industry. They also help with equal pay, right? Because unions scale. They advocate for safe working conditions for females, quality training. There's additional training for females in the field. They have women-focused committees that they provide mentorship, leadership, similar to what we do in the SWIC program. It kind of just helps retain and advance women in those building trades. They negotiate contracts for equal workplace equality. I think that's really important too. They hold companies accountable to make sure that there's some fair hiring practices. I also would like to touch on some of the industry associations that we're familiar with. NAWIC is a huge advocate for women. Our Superior Women in Construction program. I'm heavily involved with the Indiana Constructors, ICI, Construction Advancement Foundation, CAF, Purdue. Jessica mentioned them earlier. They have a WICM, Women in Construction Management program. Those are just a few that they create opportunities for networking, mentorship, leadership development. They have women folks or focused organizations that, you know, they help women connect and just share their experiences to create an environment where women can get together and have access to other females that maybe have had a similar incident, or someone that can advocate for them at that level to help them push change in the workplace culture. I also think I mentioned schools. For me, I think it starts at such a young age. It doesn't just happen at the workplace. I think it starts in the classroom. You know, we have middle schools and high schools and career programs here in the Midwest that they're exposing those young females to construction as a viable career path, that they didn't even know that this was a career for them. I think too often when they're younger, they're kind of steered away from the trades, and they don't know that this is an option. Maybe they get good grades, so someone is counseling them to go towards the college career path. And I think that schools, career counselors, educators, they really need to be part of this advocacy effort that we're trying to create for females, and show young women that construction isn't just a job, it's a career. They can be leaders. There's leadership opportunities. They have financial stability and room for growth. So those are just, I think these groups together, they can, you know, help hold companies accountable, right? Unions, building trades, associate programs, they can help hold companies accountable to create that diversity and that inclusion for females. I think whether, you know, it's through tracking data, some of these companies are tracking data as we are, you know, KPIs, helping amplify the voice of women in the field. I think without all of those programs together, working with us, change is going to be much slower. So I personally want to see more women thrive in the construction industry. So we all need to do our part to engage with others and support these organizations so that they continue to do their work and help advance the industry for everyone.
Absolutely.
I would say, here's my bottom line, right? Don't just rely on one group either. It requires all of us, the unions, the associations, the schools, the industry leaders. We all need to work together if we want to see a real change. And I think it starts young, and we need to invest in mentoring those young females and help provide opportunities for them to enter into our industry.
Absolutely. And I'm curious if, you know, I'm sure there's many that have joined us online, and maybe you guys are, you know, all doing similar things. But Amy, from your perspective, when you see you're getting involved in a lot of these younger schools, what are you seeing when some of these young females are either coming to the job site or coming into the office and witnessing things? Like what's the takeaway, or what's their reaction?
Well, and I know you guys are in this group have heard me say this 100 times, and I'll say it 1,000 times more. My favorite saying is, you can't be what you don't see, right? If they don't see a female standing there representing a construction company, whether it be a PE or whether it be a project manager or whether it be, you know, it doesn't have to be a boots on the ground or a building trades. It can also be internal, accounting, IT, marketing. There's so many opportunities for females to work in the construction industry, but if they don't see us, they'll walk right past that table. I've seen it time and time again when I've been in middle schools, high schools, college. I'm sorry, my light just turned off. If they don't see you, they'll walk right past that table, and they may be passing up an amazing opportunity for a long career. And I think they're just shocked that this career is out there, and they've always thought that construction was a shovel in the dirt or a flagger out on the roadway. And there's so many viable careers. We have an amazing lady in our SWIC group who flies our drones, Benita. You know, we go to the schools and these females see her and they're blown away. They're speechless for a moment, and then they kind of step back and they say, I could see myself doing that, because you have a female standing there. But if the schools aren't supporting it and telling them that this is a career that they can explore, then, you know, it starts at home. It starts in the schools. It's keep exposing them. We need to keep attending and talking to these girls and not just showing up one time. They want to know you're invested in them. They want to know that you keep coming back and letting them know that this is a career for them.
That's right. That's right. And I caught just a little tiny bit of the chat, but Marcy said, you know, as a mom of 3 girls, I really try to parent them about equality and that women can do anything. Teaching begins at home. Exactly what you said, Amy.
Exactly.
And it reminds me of, I hope our CEO, Nick Lacura, doesn't mind me sharing this, but he has 3 children, and he's got, you know, 2 daughters and 1 son. And I think the common expectation is that, you know, his son would take over for the company someday. We're a 4th generation family owned company, and we're very proud of that. And his response is always, well, why couldn't it be one of my daughters? And I think that's so powerful. And it's amazing. And I love hearing that every single time. And so I think it really does start at home. And it's empowering our young girls. It's empowering, you know, and even teaching our young boys. I have a son, and I want him to see that, hey, mommy works in construction, you know, and it's normal. It's a great career. And want to see all the other wonderful females too. So thank you.
And I'm not going to monopolize this conversation, but I'm going to close it with this. And I always say this is what I do. I read an article one time, and I've said this before. They asked young children to draw a picture of a superhero, and all of the children, males and females, drew a male superhero. And until we start seeing female superheroes drawn, then we still have work to do, right? So we need to keep advocating for these young ladies and let them know that females can be superheroes too, right?
Absolutely. Thanks, Amy. Okay, we're going to keep it moving here. How can women in the field support and advocate for one another to create real change? Jenny and Liz, I'm going to kick this one to both of you. You both currently work in project management in the field, and I think you witness and experiences the challenges more than some of the rest of us on the panel. So I'm very curious to hear what your insights are. Jenny, I'd like to start with you. How do you think the best ways women can support and advocate for each other specifically in the field?
Great question, Callie. I'd like to start out by saying a quick personal story, because I think it really speaks to this question. When I first started in the company, I was placed at one of our largest projects, and there were many other female engineers, but because I was with the survey group, I didn't get to interact much with them. However, early on, one of them approached me, and she goes, "Hey, I noticed that you don't have a female safety vest." This was before we had implemented our female safety vest. She's like, "I have a few extra ones. Here you go." So that small gesture just made me feel very noticed, very included, and it meant a lot at the moment. So I think that's something important that I learned at the moment, that it's advocating and helping women in the field. It's a 2-step process. I think it starts in the individual level, where we have small acts of kindness. Hey, here's the safety vest. Hey, how's your day doing? Just so we don't allow people to just be in isolation, kind of get to know them, and just they know in an individual level that we're there for them. And then the next step, but that's just the beginning. I think real change really happens when we take that same mindset of caring and truly trying to connect with the individual to a policymaker and structural improvement. And then, for example, and that's when we will see that real change for us and the next generation. For our company, for example, we took that same mindset and we implemented the safety, the female safety vest, and obviously the maternity leave policy change that happened. So I think those 2 things are very important into being able to help women out in the field.
Sure. Thanks, Jenny. Liz, I'm gonna popcorn over it to you. Do you have anything to add to that? What's your perspective?
Yeah, I think what Jenny was saying about just connecting, you know, that small little bit of connection really, it opens up the doors for everyone, right? We spoke a lot about visibility already, but it's important to connect with every level of the project, whether you're a project manager and you're talking to a laborer, whether you're a laborer, you want to feel comfortable enough to have a conversation with your foreman, your superintendent, or your project manager. We all are in this job, or in any job, to learn, to support, and to develop each other. So the more we do that we want to do that for men and women. There's obviously less females that are currently on the job sites than anything else. So if we make that extra effort and go talk to another female in the project and see, how their day's going or what we could do different, how we can be open and available for them. Now, also, we need to be able to give and receive criticisms, right? We're not always going to do everything great. And it's not going to be we're not going to be the first people to do it, and we're not going to be the last person to do it. But we need to make sure that we're accepting that criticism and that we're open to learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the little things to kind of connect with one another and then being really open to getting different feedback, and hopefully that starts resonating throughout the entire company.
Right. And people may not be in the roles that, if they're in a role, it may not be the role that's fit for them, right? So we need to be able to highlight each other's talents and be able to deflect and be able to say, well, maybe this role is more fitting for you, where you could add more value to the team or to the company.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. What advice would you give the next generation of women entering the construction industry? Liz, I'm keeping this on you. You've had great past experiences. I love you were the very first female at your first company. So how has that since changed? What would you say to your younger self?
I mean, obviously I'm still here, so I did something right. Tenacity, I guess, is the best word that comes to mind. I mean, construction's not an easy business for anybody, whether you're male or whether you're female. The hours are long, the conditions are sometimes less than pleasant. And there's a lot of physical exertion, right? So, but over the years, I mean, I've been doing this for over 25 years, right? So over the years, the industry's developed, we've got different equipment, better tools, more planning for safety, just like we talked about with the vests and gloves and everything else, other PPE. So I guess we just have to know that, even though there may be a smaller person on a crew and they may be small in strength or stature, but they can contribute in another way that's going to make that crew do something better, right? They may interject a smarter way to perform a task that may be saving time, right? So every person on a crew has a value. You just have to be able to find that value for that person and stick with it, right? You may fail at a task, and that might not be the best task or the best role for you or classification. You might be a terrible operator, but you can be a damn good welder, right? So just keep your opportunities open, keep your mind open, and believe in yourself, believe in your capabilities, and know that whatever you contribute is going to make a difference somehow or some way.
Yeah, I love what you said, Liz, about not everyone is really skilled in one area. Maybe they're not in the right role. I remember we talked a lot about that at our most recent our SWIC lead meeting. So we host that, once a month. And every once in a while, we'll bring everyone together in person. And we have a couple foremen, within our lead group. And I remember Katie mentioned that. And I was so blown away by the fact that, she was so articulate in knowing exactly what her crew, what their strengths are. And she was very good at kind of placing them and moving them around. And I think that's a huge part of a successful leader in general. So to your point, I think that's huge. Jenny, you're incredibly passionate about advocating and creating space for women within construction. What would you say to attract more women to the field as a whole? How would you add to this question?
I would say embrace confidence, seek out mentorship. Mentors, they're very important, and advocate for yourself. First of all, don't be afraid to ask questions and take up space. You don't need to sit in the back and just be the note taker. You belong there in this seat of the table as much as anybody else. If you have a question, ask it. If you have an idea, say your idea. Engage. The more you engage, the more you'll grow. When it comes to mentorship, seek out the people that are there to teach you. The people that are there to have your back when you go to them, they'll be your support circle. And lastly, when it comes to advocating for yourself, no one is going to say how great you are better than your own self. You know all the details of what you've done, what you haven't done, where you want to go, where you don't want to grow. So sit in within yourself, figure out what your values are, where you want to go, and just advocate for yourself. So that's what I would say for the next generation, some of the things
I think it
they
is
should consider.
important too, just bouncing off what Jenny said, having that mentor, having that advocate, and you might have that person that you want to bounce ideas off of, but they might not give you the response you want to hear either. So you also have to be prepared for that feedback. It's not always, roses out there. So, but be prepared for not that answer you want the warm and fuzzy feeling you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, ladies. All right, so we have a few more minutes before we're going to get into our Q&A portion of the webinar. So SWIC was developed out of a greater need in our environment. We want to solve real world problems, provide business-centric solutions, as I'm sure many of you that have joined us today are. It's no secret that adaptability is key in today's workforce. We're currently in an employee-driven market. We've kind of already hit on this. Couple that with the incoming workforce and changing new technology, we have to begin to think about doing things differently all around. So how can we position ourselves to be that most successful? By focusing on creating an exceptional employee experience. Collectively, we can recruit and attract that top talent. We obviously very much believe that there is an untapped market of women engineers, craftsmen, and shared service professionals that are eager to break into the industry. They may just not know about it. So I think that's a huge part of our message here today. We need to be open and make sure that we develop an environment where everyone can thrive and reach their highest potential. So for this question, I would love to open it up to the audience first. If you could change one thing in the industry today to make it better for women, what would it be? And for this, I'm not sure if we can do this. Maybe someone can give me a confirmation. I would love to either submit it in the chat. I don't know that we're able to unmute people where they can kind of share. So maybe let's share your thoughts in the chat and I'll try to hit on a few of them. And we want to see what you think. What's one way, if you could change one thing to make it better for women, what would it be? All right, see, I think I've got the chat up here. So let's see. Access to bathrooms. So make it survivable on a single income. Absolutely. Yeah. Great points. Does anyone on our panel, Superior ladies, do you guys have anything to add real quick while we wait for a few more chat responses to come through?
I just stress again, some sort of structured mentorship program. I think that was very, very beneficial to us, or find a sponsor, someone that has experience, whether it be a male or a female, that can help you, just provide some feedback, positive, negative feedback, help you thrive and help you, drive some meaningful change. I think mentorship, sponsorship programs are huge at all levels.
Yeah. And then just kind of what you mentioned earlier about, our CEO and his story, as far as his family goes, having that top leadership support is huge as well. Knowing that your leaders want this program, they're invested in it, they're going to carry out that message. It makes it feel like it's it made it into something that was real. It wasn't something that was performative. And that was super important, I believe, to everyone that participated in the program.
Yeah, I agree. One thing we talk a lot internally about is work with the willing, right? So find and identify maybe some of your leaders that are willing and are very interested in supporting an initiative like this. Mm-hmm. And then you can don't go after the person that is, incredibly resistant. You're going to be wasting a ton of your efforts and a ton of your time. Work with the willing and start there. And I think we've really taken that home. All right, so a couple other chat, make it more family friendly, knowing that there's different types of jobs in the industry, communications, marketing, business development, encouragement and less intimidation to seek out the trades. Absolutely. Providing more resources for women that have children as well. That's something that we definitely talk about internally. I love that one.
Mhm.
Travis said, recognize the individual and their contribution. Fit the work to the worker, not the worker to the work. I hope I read that correctly, Travis. I think that's a great point. Access to women's PPE, along with mentorship and training, give access to coaching too. I think leadership coaching is something that has been instrumental in my development personally. So I totally agree with that one. Have an equal opportunity to move up the leadership ranks, just the same as our male counterparts. Bathrooms, feminine hygienes and products. Allow more women to take on higher roles and positions. Get more women in the room, get that seat at the table. How do we get that seat at the table? How do we make it equitable? All right, so thank you everyone for all of the chat, and I hope that was helpful for you all too, and that was kind of fun to interact a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and we'll wrap up the questions part, and we're going to move into just truly Q&A. This will be Q&A for our panel. And so what we would like to do, Charisse and Jess, I think you're going to help me monitor the chat. I've got it up, so I might be good. But what we want to do is go ahead and submit. If you have any questions for our panelists, submit those in the chat. And for the next, a little less than 15 minutes, we will answer any questions. If the chat kind of dies out, then we can wrap up early. That's perfectly fine too. And if we don't get to everyone's questions, then we will find a way to kind of get our answers out to everyone that attended today. So if you have a question, please submit it in the chat. I think we might have just received our first one. Okay, first question is, currently a project management coordinator. I help with the admin side of the PM's job. Where would you start to prepare for trying to move into a PM role one day? This is by Lexi.
I guess, Lexi, I think that depends on how your company is structured, right? I know when I started as in the project management role, assistant project manager, I was there to work with the project manager and do kind of a lot of the office stuff. But I spent a lot of time with my superintendent on the job. I would get my paperwork and such done. And I tried to spend 2, 3, 4 hours a day, every day, running around with my superintendent, walking on the job with him, learning what he did for takeoffs and ordering materials. So I would try and, make a mentor, right? Get an ally and see if you can shadow them and really become something more to them. It's going to take more time and more effort. It's not going to be your 40 hours a week or whatever you still have to dedicate to being your admin role or coordinator role. But it's definitely something that you're showing that extra mile and giving it your all to be able to learn that extra role.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz. Okay, we have, let's see. Sorry, there's a couple of things showing in the chat. Darian asked, what is being done to include trans and gender non-conforming people in the fight for equality?
I would say, unfortunately for us, we haven't really encountered many gender nonconforming people at our company. So it's something we haven't had to deal with yet, per se. But I think I saw a comment earlier where somebody said that they would like to see them included in initiatives like the Women in Construction Initiative. And I would agree with that personally.
Anyone else have anything to add to that one? All right. Okay, Hillary said, I hope this is the next question. What conversations do you have with executive leadership teams regarding women in construction? We have the responses being pushback versus being on board. What recommendations do you have for someone wanting to approach their leadership team? I think any one of us can answer that one because we're all pretty close with our executive leadership team, fortunately. And I think throughout this initiative, we've gotten a lot closer. Some of us report directly to some of our C-suite leaders. And so the initial conversations, I think, were a little bit easier. But Amy, I think were you going to say something? Let me.
Just, I mean, for us, I stress that it starts at the top. Our owner and our CFO were instrumental in getting this program started and and the growth of it. I mean, we started with 11 women. We now have 20 women. We have men that are advocating for us. Our president here in the Midwest advocates no matter where he is. He's always talking about the Women in Construction program. And this year was our second year really trying to push the WIC week. And we went from a year ago to purchasing t-shirts for just the females in the industry, which may have been 250 shirts, to this year. Our owner heavily pushed the initiative that every employee received a Superior Women in Construction t-shirt. That's huge. Banners that were hanging on the job sites that are, the traveling public is driving by and seeing that Superior Construction is not only supporting, but advocating for all women in construction, not just the females as Superior. To me, that tells me that your top leadership, once they're on board, there is nothing that you can't do to be advocates for females and to bring visibility. But it just starts with, last year, a small group of t-shirts, to this year, it's a company-wide initiative. So just keep pushing and telling your ownership how important it is to be advocates and voices for females in the industry.
That's right.
And I think
And,
to piggyback, oops,
Oh,
sorry,
yes.
to piggyback off that, I just saw Tia's comment about that your company has an acknowledged WIC week. It took us kind of going through NAWIC. I think Amy and Jess maybe had been the first members of NAWIC, and I was just coming across it on the internet and saw that it was Women in Construction Week. So we really went to push it. We proposed it to the leadership. And we went to marketing, we just tried to push it and tried to advocate for ourselves, and then also be as visible as we could. And that was the point of the t-shirts, and encouraging to try and get the entire company to do t-shirts and take photos and be proud of that, and try and share that with other trade organizations. So they also were aware that it was Women in Construction Week. So it takes a village, right? It takes us to have an advocate for ourselves and make it visible to all.
Yeah. And I would also add,
sorry.
I would also add that if you are approaching your executive leadership for the first time, they're very focused on how do we achieve our organization's goals, and how do we kind of, keep the train moving. And so if you can approach it as if you are solving business, needs, and you're meeting those. One way that we did it is, construction, I think there's a 500,000 employee deficit, is what's estimated. So how are we going to attract people into the field? Well, to us, women is a huge untapped market. I think women don't consider construction oftentimes off the top of their head to come in for a really viable career. And that's any of the positions. And so for us, it was solving true business needs and making it to our executive leadership. This is how we can help contribute to the bottom line of the organization. And I think if you're able to do that and make some of those selling points, you can probably open the door a lot further. And then you start adding in all the other things.
And that was my response as well.
Mine too.
It's okay.
We're on the same page.
Holly, there's a question in the chat that I think is maybe best answered by you, so I wanted to read it for you. How is Superior supporting DBE businesses in the wake of the injunction on DBE programs? And there's several versions of that same question, also talking about DBE programs. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm gonna say, who did you kick that to, Jess?
You.
Sorry. Right as I take a sip of water. So how is Superior supporting DBE businesses in the wake of the injunction? To be honest with you, with the injunction coming down, we haven't felt a lot of those results yet, right? So I think it's still a little bit of a wait and see game, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think that there's going to be different regulations that we're going to be following up on, and if, kind of just tracking to see what does that look like with these changes. A lot of these changes, they're so brand new that I think we just don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet. But I will say that, we'll be monitoring them, and we're going to try to continue to support those DBE businesses, because I do think it's important. And I do think that they contribute to a huge aspect of, being successful with a lot of our projects. So
I think a lot of that comes in the field too, right? We have the direct interaction with
100%.
who we sign up for subs or whatever. And a lot of that's networking. We meet a lot of people through, there's DBE programs through different trade organizations. And so we really you become close with some DBEs, and when they perform, that says it all. But a lot of it is networking and past performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those relationships are key. Totally agree with you, Liz. And that's just from my perspective, and I'm just looking at it from an HR standpoint. So I think your point, Liz, is much more kind of hands on the ground. You're having the conversations with these, different company leaders and going through it from there. Okay, let's see. Any Jess, Cherise, have you guys seen any other questions? I've kind of lost track of where we're at. I was trying to answer them in order, but
Yeah, there are a couple
there another
of,
one?
yeah, there's a couple of
We've got,
questions
I think, 4
relating
minutes,
to,
so.
there's a couple of questions relating to like the word manpower. And there was another one earlier about the word foreman and calling people foreman. What words can we use to replace those words? To start, honestly, we had an experience recently where our marketing team requested that we change that word to foreperson, and our female foreman didn't like that. They wanted to be called foreman. So I think it's about listening to your employees and what they want to hear. And if the female foreman want to be called foreman, that's what we're going to call them. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Not specifically, but I did want to maybe kick it over to Liz on this question, because you brought up some points about this in one of our early sessions with SWIC on what to say to other women who do balk at the idea that it's distasteful to identify as women versus just do a good job.
Right. I mean, I think when things are new, it's difficult to adapt to, right? And I think the construction industry is one of those that is kind of like stuck in their way, right? And we see that when we try and adapt the safety policies, we try and adapt, to adding women in construction, we try and adapt, when we have new tools. I mean, there's so many different things that a lot, men are more resistant to change than women, unfortunately, right? But I think that you've got to just show yourself. You've got to, I just kind of put up blinders, and you got to show it by what you produce. And throughout this program, we talked about being visible, and that you just can't wait for somebody to see what you're doing. So, and that's where the whole advocacy thing comes in. So it's this giant circle that, you've got to, I don't know if ignore what people are saying and then just trudge on. But you've got to have the advocacy to help other people see your successes and really notice you. So it's kind of it comes full circle, I think.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I know we are just at the top of the hour. So I wanted to really quickly, maybe Savannah, maybe you might be able to help us if there was some outstanding questions that we didn't get to. We could somehow answer those in our own time and get that out to any attendees. I don't know if that's possible. Is that an option? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I can provide you with the chat log and the
Awesome.
attendee list, and you guys can get in contact.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
And if anyone is joining and you want to connect with us through LinkedIn, please do so. We would love to connect with you as well. And we really appreciate everyone's time. We hope you found this session, informative and helpful and enjoyed some of the content. Thank you to my panel. I appreciate you all. And I hope everyone has a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.